Hello again, friends. This is the podcast with Madhava Puri, and today we talk about work in general, and in more specific terms, how we should adjust ourselves so we as people can work more productively in more innovative way.
Uh, First of all, we have to maintain ourselves and maybe we have to maintain a family. So we need to do some work and get some fruits from that money.
Money.
So you can pay the rent, you can buy food, insurance, gasoline for your car, and spend on your kids, free time or whatever. Work actually is categorized on three levels. The most common level is that most people see this as necessary evil.
Yeah.
I have to go to work, I mean, you really don't. Actually, statistically speaking, most people don't like their work.
Yes.
They wake up Monday morning, when can I be free? When is it Friday afternoon again? And
That's
when,
the setup which is really hard to break.
yeah, I mean,
Mindset.
we do it for the paycheck, basically.
Yes.
And try to do the best out of it. Maybe we don't like the boss, maybe we don't like the colleagues, maybe we don't like the work itself. I know, for example, people who has been desperately looking for work, some friends who are vegetarian, and then they've been offered an employment at one of those fast food chains, serving hamburgers and hot dogs, and they won't last long because the work is so contradictory to their values. So the necessary evil, that's the majority. Then you have the next level, actually three levels. Next level is that, yes, I see this as my career. I work and then I will get a better title, I will get more money, get promoted, go in a bigger office, maybe get a car from my employer to drive around. And if the competitor company offers me a better position, I don't have any loyalty.
No loyalty.
I just go to them,
Yeah.
So that's the career thing. But still, that's not really fulfilling. And then you end up on the top of the pyramid where you see your work as a calling. Yes, this is me. That's what I do. Some people, I know somebody who's been a janitor whole life, and they love, going around fixing things and serving others and like that. And the problem when you identify too much with your work is that you see, I am a janitor. It's not that when you work in one of those fast food chains, you say that I am, whatever. This is just what I do for a living. But when you really see work as a calling, which is common when you become a doctor, a dentist, or policeman, or military priest, people see this is me, this is my calling.
It's called like professional deformation.
Yeah. They kind of identify very much with what they do. So then when they retire, when they come my age or even below, they get an identity crisis. I'm not working as a janitor anymore. Who am I? And then they start spending the whole day in front of the TV or start drinking because they kind of lost themselves. Right?
Yes.
So anyway, that being said, work is necessary unless you take your birth in a very rich family and your parents support you the whole life, or you win on the lottery, or which is kind of very rare. So one has to pay the price to be in this world, in the material world, because you have a material body that requires fuel and so many other things to exist.
In Srimad Bhagavatam 1, 2, 12 to 34, it is said that humans' work is to satisfy Krishna through occupational duty. Does this being a janitor the whole life satisfies Krishna?
Yes and no. It's a step on the way, because some people, they don't care for work. They may rob people or break into banks or deal drugs or whatever just so that they get some money.
Yeah.
So then that's a kind of work, but it's work against the universal laws of morality and ethics, which we call dharma. So the first step in the chain of spiritual awakening is to follow dharma. You work, but you work in an ethical, moral way. You know, you don't care about God or Krishna initially.
Yeah.
You just want to work in a just and fair way.
Okay.
So this is a way that the universe directs us into following something. You follow dharma. Then what you were quoting from the Bhagavatam is that you actually identify that there is some universal almighty being that are actually enjoying our work directly or indirectly. So you figure out, I'm not just working for myself to maintain my material existence, I actually dedicate my work for God, which is a huge leap on the ladder of spiritual development. And that's what Bhagavan is talking about when we dedicate our work for God. You know.
What do you think? You just mentioned that, for example, the first step is being polite and loyal and that stuff. But if you work, for example, in a some disgraceful industry like cigarettes factory, but you are very loyal, very true to your boss, and what? How does it work? Are you in a good position, or you should move on from that place?
Well, you should move on, obviously, but at least there is loyalty to somebody, there is service to somebody, something, and along the way that something will be replaced with something better. Maybe you quit that cigarette company and you start working for a company that will save the dolphins or save the rainforest or something, and you do the similar service, maybe marketing, you know, and then that's a nice step.
Sometimes it's very difficult to find a similar salary in an industry that you enjoy more.
Yeah.
You're doomed to stay in a cigarette factory because you have a family, a wife.
Yeah, for most people, the tragic situation is that you have to take what you've been offered, because most of the time it's the employer's market. He can choose from people, but sometimes it's the opposite in certain trades, that it is the employee's market. If you have a unique skill which is very much wanted, then you can choose from different companies to work for. You see? That's a luxurious thing.
That's very hard to develop, and secondly, hard to sell that you have that skill.
Yeah.
Then
you come into the science of making good job interviews and convince people that you're the one, and so it's a whole theater going on there.
All right, so let's move on, and there are two things from Vedic knowledge which probably you guys know, called ashrams and varnas. So I believe we don't need to explain that much, but maybe just a little touch on that. So grihastha should, the person who is householder, the grihastha should maintain ashrams of brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, sannyasis. Maintain. So it's his, let's say, maybe second or third duty after satisfying God, satisfying his provided for a family. And what do you think about that duty? And first of all, should we define ourselves as some kind of mentors for these other categories?
That's the different stages you go through. So like the ashrams, that it starts off when you're a kid. You live in celibacy. You know, as a boy,
obviously.
As a small boy, sometimes you hate girls, they have germs, and then you grow up, become a teenager and think, girls are kind of interesting, and then, become an adult, and
as an adult, you how to say, live with these crazy teenagers and you still provide for them.
Yeah, that's true. You get your own children that grow up to teenagers, and so you go through different phases, starting with, the time when you study, you go to school, and then when you're ready, you may get a job, and then you get a spouse and form a family. That's the grihastha ashram, and you stay in that for some years until the kids are, adult and they can be, autonomous without you. Then, you may reduce the whole family business and go traveling with your wife or something, etc.
If you have funds.
Yeah, if you have. Some people, they stay alone and are quite comfortable with it too, the whole life. That we call about the incel, the involuntary celibates, but they're also the volcels, the voluntary celibates. So, but then you have what you were talking about in the beginning, the gunas, the varnas, which is what are your particular skills and what you prefer to do. And that's very much encouraged in the Vedic literature, that you find a business or a profession that you like and that you develop and that you're good at.
That was actually my second point, where we can skip and go to the varnas. But my first point was about ashrams and supporting them. I wonder if a person like myself should actually think about all the other ashrams, like youngsters, the old guys, and because I'm just working for myself, and just so that my wife doesn't shout at me, the basic minimum, right? Just give her some buck every month. That's it.
Is she gonna watch this video?
I'm just imagining, like, it's an average guy's thinking, I guess. So that I don't care about my I don't know, relatives, because they probably are working themselves, but that is a different kind of thinking, that I should provide for all other people who are not really actively working.
Actually, that's what's going on in society. We have this implicit division, because you used to be a youngster and somebody provided for you, and now you're a mature adult in the prime time of your life, and most people, they do get married or live in a marriage or family situation, and they work and they provide for the family, and they make more or less the whole society going like this. So it's guys like you who provide income for the younger and also for the pensioners, and unless they make investment in one of those funds, but that's like lottery, like this. So this is a natural division. It's sociology, basically. You have the peasants, the workers, and the priests, and the nobility in Europe. So we find the same or similar divisions in modern society. It's just natural. And right now, you kind of identify with a householder, you support your family, and you help supporting the rest of society, like that, through your work.
And I also thought that actually tax is the way of supporting the whole society. Because you don't even think about it, but actually you do that.
Yep.
That's great, maybe. Maybe not. Maybe should people be more aware of what they're doing, if they should.
Well, even the retired people, they have to pay tax on their pension, like that. But children are more supported by subsidies and barnbidrag, and stuff like that, and from money from the parents that already pay taxes for them. So it's a whole socio-economic system we are talking about here, which is fairly natural in any society.
All right, and now let's dive.
You go to a tribe in Africa, you send out the young, strong men in their 20s and 30s. They go out in the jungle and they hunt, and then they bring back the dead animals. They do barbecue and they feed the whole village.
Because it's still happening.
Yeah, the old people, they don't go out hunting, and the kids, they are not qualified of doing it, and maybe not most of the ladies. There may be some strong ladies that join in. So you have your designated duty, and what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita is that if you follow your designated duty, your conditioned personality with your skills, then you will be properly situated, and you will be kind of satisfied by doing that.
Now you're transitioning to varnas, right? So there are 4 varnas. One is the teaching class. They teach spiritual knowledge. The protectors, then the ones who produce food and protect cows, how it's written in Srimad Bhagavatam, and merchants maybe, and the others that serve the rest of these varnas. How you would think about your abilities? Okay, you can hunt a tiger in the jungle, that's fine, but when you're in Europe, you have marketing jobs, sales jobs, production, I don't know, but really different types of jobs. How you should associate your skills, how you can find out about your skills, actually.
We started off by this, actually. Remember, we talked about the pyramid, those who hate their jobs, and they do that because the jobs are totally opposed sometimes to their personal skills. And the few lucky ones are, working according to their qualities and the skills and the preferences. So you want to go in that direction. You educate yourself, you go to the university and you choose topics which are attractive for you, which you're interested in. And if you then can, like some people come from abroad, they're trained doctors or psychiatrists or whatever, but then they don't get a job, so they have to drive the taxi or bake a pizza. They don't like that because they're overqualified, for example.
There are also examples of people that have, 3 higher degrees and they're still a taxi driver.
Exactly, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So one needs to try and follow. Sometimes people will be satisfied with a lower salary just so they can enjoy their work.
For a shorter period of time, I guess.
Yeah, there are ways to deal with it economically. Just on a side note, you can make more and more money and make more and more costs because you want more and more out of your life. Enjoy, it costs money. Or you can lower your standards and live a simple, nice, peaceful life, and then you don't have to make so much money. So this are...
A second, I'll cheaper this because the flickering into my eye.
I see.
Okay, so you say, but some, I believe like 90% of the times people are very roughly bound by circumstances.
Yeah.
They don't have too much choice. Even if they enjoy what they do, like maybe working for some university, if they're more intellectual people, then they are very hooked on the system, on the salary, on the their paperwork. For example, if they live in EU, they need to do some papers for the next period of time. So still not really clear for me how you define your qualities and what can you give as an example of those qualities? Because even if you work in McDonald's and you're good to people, you notice, or people notice you're good to people, that means you can actually be a sales guy as well, or I don't know, care for some animals. Maybe you are more technical, you can fix things. Does it come from outside, or you should develop it from yourself, that okay, I'm good in this, I'm gonna do more of this in my spare time, watch YouTube, it's self-educate more on the topic?
It comes from your interest, from your desire. It comes even from childhood. You wanted to do, like a friend of mine and myself, when we were very young, we had a little chemistry laboratory in the basement. We liked to mix things and make smoke and fire and explosions, and then it would be natural to study more of that later on and maybe work in a lab or something like that in the chemical industry. Or somebody develop skill of playing an instrument or paint, something creative, because every person has some kind of creative skill. The creative skill is actually the language of the soul. So whatever you want to create in this world, we are made into the image of God, and God creates the whole cosmos. So we want to create our own little cosmos with a family and friends and different kind of activities. So you follow what is your nature, it's called the guna, the quality of your nature, what you want to do, what are your skills, what are your interests, like this. And then you act accordingly, which is your karma. But as you said, it's sometimes you have to act against your interest in karma just to make a living. Anyone can wash the dishes or serve out hamburgers or something, and then people are forced to do that.
Attention span is so distracted for every person. A lot of people doom scroll after work, not really interested in self-education, and they don't really believe in themselves, to be honest. Should you associate with some gurus, with some other people who can inspire you? How you first approach the idea that you need to continue your chemical experiences even in the adult age?
I don't know, it just comes, spontaneously. And they are part of the so-called samskaras. They are the imprints of your mind from previous life. So there are some extreme examples like Mozart, who started to write fantastic music when he was like 6 years old. It came from the past life. But we are all, in one sense, small Mozarts. So whatever we brought with us in the subtle body from the previous life will at one point manifest in this life as a natural consequence of your conditioned self. So, as I said, it's very rare that people actually can work fully out of what they want to do and what they're skilled. These are the top on this triangle. This is my calling. This is me, what I do. Work in a symphony orchestra or be a doctor or a priest or I don't know. Because most of us, we end up a little down on the pyramid, work for the career or just work for a living.
Okay, now I want to touch a little bit on the way people should or could work. So it is said in Bhagavad Gita 2.47 that perform your duty without attachment to fruits and work as devotion. So how you cannot be super attached to what you do and not being distracted by some negativity you get or stress, anxiety you get when you're in these office conditions.
Yeah, that comes by intelligence, because normally we think that I am in control of my life and of the fruits, but it's explained a few verses before that in the second chapter that the happiness and the stress in this life, they come automatically. Just like the winter, like we have now, a lot of snow, and summer seasons, they come and they go, not much you can do about it. So whether you endeavor very hard to get happiness or get the fruits, or if you don't, some or another you will be maintained in this world and you will experience happiness and distress by itself.
There's this saying about not applying extraneous efforts to whatever you do in your job, like not to be super, but how to distinguish the lazy mindset with these applying extraneous efforts?
Well, laziness is basically what we call the mode of ignorance, that you don't care. But somebody who does care, he always tries to do his best. But like you said before, he's detached. Sometimes even when you put your best into something, things simply don't happen.
Yes.
And sometimes, you may do a little, but you get a big reward, all of a sudden. So being detached is that, like Krishna says in the Gita, you should always do your best. You should do your duty. Try your best. We told that to Arjuna. But the outcome is not up to you. The outcome is to material nature, or in the case of Arjuna, it was directly designed by Krishna. He decided already how the battle of Kurukshetra should end. So by you being detached, you can focus more on doing your best rather than getting all obsessed about getting some fruits, which you can't control anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. This idea I heard somewhere that politics wins over competence, and it's interesting to understand why that happens. Why, like some maybe mediocre person would take your position or like you're promoted first.
Well, personally, I don't see this as an absolute rule, because you have to distinguish between what you call politics, because, sometimes we say you can fake it until you make it, but it means that you have to do your best. And to be a good team worker and be good towards your boss, your colleagues, that is always a gain. But if you don't do your actual work properly, if you're not competent, or if you don't try your best, then in the long run, no politics will save you.
That I can argue with. Bureaucratic organization. So you just write some papers, you don't really care for the result, usually, and you just care about your promotion. And that works in many countries, I think, in many ways. So.
Yeah, like you said, the promotion, that's the middle section we're talking about. Somebody will put more energy into get promotion, bigger office, car, maybe go to the competitor, than he cares about number one, which is doing the best work, or the lowest one just to get a living. So politics is important, of course. And maybe in some circumstances it will win over competence, but it's just on this level, the middle level, not on the top or the lower really.
Yeah. I know many people that are more inclined to religion, to self-reflection, you know, like Krishna devotees. They are less, they are very reluctant about achievements in their jobs. Does it mean is it a good thing, or they should actually be more careful and be more wanting to develop as a good worker, as a good specialist, to get promotion, maybe something?
Well, I have been in this situation for several years. I was working as a computer technician, you know, wearing suit and tie, but had short hair like now, and a little sicka. So they didn't care about that because I tried my best, but I wasn't particularly interested in developing the IT department and taking extra education. I did what I was supposed to do, and I made sure that there were some good politics too. I was friendly with my co-workers and with the boss, just to keep the employment so I can get the money. As a matter of fact, most of the money I earned went to invest in a small vegetarian restaurant we had in Malmö called Higher Taste. So one could do that because a devotee is not interested in develop the material entanglement, but to get out of it as much as is needed for maintenance of the body or the project, like the family or something else. So it's a balance, really. You know, if you can do this work without being attached to it, like you said, you do your best, and then, you know, the fruits will come, and because it's part of the big scheme. You are dedicated to your best performance, and whether the performance is to some material objective or later on in your development, your performance is to please God. The performance, like Prabhupada used to say many times, that first you become conscious, then you become Krishna conscious.
This is a long life process to become conscious, I believe.
Most of them, for us, it could be many lifetimes. It could also go very quick. Prabhupada said 1 minute, he said in one famous clip. So it's a question of dedication, determination, how you decide. It cannot be done artificially. It has to be a process of surrender, you know.
So yeah, it's also said in Bhagavad Gita that on your job you just try to worship the Supreme Lord by the results of your occupation. How you put this idea into your mind in general, or you should not really do that, or you should just devote some time to maybe reading the Prabhupada's books, maybe yoga, or you just do your job and just be good with people, be good with your family, and Krishna will set up how it works.
Yeah, it's a complex thing in life, but number one, we would try to minimize our material demands, meaning that we should absolutely work and get as much as we need to maintain the body, to maintain the family nicely. But all the extra money that will come in, maybe we should use for spreading of Krishna consciousness movement. Either something you do yourself, or you can, even if you're lucky, go down from 100% employment to 75 or to 50, or you could be self-employed. Like I was self-employed for many years, which made me able to use my time in a more productive way. If I needed some extra time in the morning to chant japa, I could do that. And then maybe I had to work a little later in the evening, like this. So you model your life around your spiritual needs. But one shouldn't artificially renounce what the Prabhupada said, health comes first. That means your personal health and also the health of your spouse and your children. But all this extra, you buy maybe your children some useless, super expensive toys, which they actually don't need. Then we can buy them something nice and simpler. Children used to play outside with some stones and rocks and had built things in the trees. Now everybody has to have a tablet, cost 10,000 crowns. So this is the balance that one needs to think about. And whatever Krishna gives you extra as your reward, you give it back to him, one way or the other, by your time or as a donation to the temple or something like that.
Nice.
But you have to make sure that your family is happy. Like they say, if your wife is happy, then you are happy. So
But I think some may argue that usually a wife is like a never-ending demand machine, so it's never enough.
Isn't that a song? Never enough. I heard that. Well, the meaning of woman in Sanskrit is stri. Stri means ever expanding. Means if you give a woman a house, she will give you a home. So she will cook you a meal. And if you give her a sperm, she can give you a child, like that. But then they also say that if you give her some crap, she will give you a truckload of,
Crap.
yeah. So one needs to be careful, to maintain a peaceful and harmonious family life as well. So
it's another school for a person.
Yeah, my experience with the other gender is that they're more happy if you give some personal time and attention and care, tenderness, than you give her things. So your time is more inexpensive. Mm-hmm. Like, she will come to you all upset and, this problem and that problem. And as a man, you want to bring out your saw and your hammer, you need to fix it. But she's not really interested in you fixing it. She's more interested in that you sit down and hear her out and empathize about the problem. So, one has to walk this balance.
So in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.19.5 it said that the protection of his wife is like main duty for a grihastha who is working. Mm-hmm. There may be some suffering because of this, but one must nevertheless endure it. This is the duty of a faithful husband. So I'm just trying to return back to the work topic here. So he will go to that unloved job and still provide for the wife, and it's normal. This endurance can last for like a lifetime, I believe.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Depending on the karma, right?
Some couples, they end up hating one another and want to kill one another. And some, they stay away for 70 years. So it's very different. It comes with the territory.
What does it mean?
It comes, this is the price we need to pay. Mm-hmm. We have all these dreams, I'm going to create my paradise in the material world, and I'm going to have a family and a beautiful wife. She was very friendly and nice towards me, but many times it doesn't work out that way. So one need to tolerate oneself, one need to tolerate other circumstances and do the best out of it. It's temporary.
I also have one idea, like what is more important? Say you have some idea to develop your skills. For that you need some stuff to buy. Let's say you need a piano to start playing, but your wife says we need to go to the trip or something like that. So what's more valuable in this situation, to spend on the trip or on the piano for self-development?
Well, good question. It depends on the circumstances, but buying the piano is considered more like a selfish thing. Going on a trip is selfish on the other directions. So it's hard to judge. Sometimes we have to, we can say, okay, honey, we go on a trip this time to please you. Next time, I want to buy the piano. That's a good bargain, right? Yeah. You want to go to the trip? We'll go to the trip. So we go. And then next time, well, I want this piano. Yeah, but remember, you promised me when we went on the trip that I could get the piano. So you have to kind of...
All right.
That's called bargaining. You have to do the best of that bargain, they says.
But what is if a person thinks or transitions to self-employment? Is it actually for everyone? When to understand one's ready for being self-employed, doing some business, opening a business?
And in one sense, it's a little bit scary, a little bit more insecure, because you have to do the whole thing. Find the customers, do the work for the customers, do the invoicing, get the payment, pay your taxes, do your declaration, tax return. So it's a whole big thing. As a normal employee, just, 8 o'clock, I start working, 5 o'clock, I go home, and then I don't think about the rest. So, so being self-employed requires a lot more versatility. You have to be more flexible and
consciousness, right?
Yeah, you have to have more skills other than
material consciousness.
Yeah, your main profession. You also have to know all those things like bookkeeping and marketing, and
you can outsource many things actually.
You can outsource, yeah, you can.
But how to understand when you're ready? Because I guess many people would start still working for someone just to give to provide for the beginning of life, let's say, and then they want to endeavor for something bigger. But how to understand if it's actually not their business, if they should maybe stay in the corporate world?
Many people, I know my son-in-law, he tried to be self-employed for a while. He tested it, but he realized this is not for me. So he went back to being an employee. So that's also, if you feel like this is this nagging idea, I really want to try. So then you do, and maybe you succeed. And you never go back to being an employee again. But maybe you figure out, no, this is not for me. I can't really find a sufficient number of customers, or this and that, so you can go back.
One good quality that I think self-employed people, entrepreneurs have is like decisiveness. So they are quite decisive about many things. And actually, that's what distinguishes, I think, many of them from the employees. But should an employee also be more decisive, take more opportunities within his setup?
Then he'll get promoted, probably.
But without thinking about promotion, should I do that? Take more responsibility for no extra payment, let's say.
Well, if you feel like doing that, you could, of course, because it's a good skill. Back in the spiritual world, you take initiatives all the time to find out different ways to serve the Lord. So being a little bit entrepreneurial or creative, that's a good thing, in general.
I guess that's what Bhagavad Gita is all about.
Yeah,
just go and do it.
Go and do it. Do your best, but do it for God. It makes life a little bit more interesting if you can follow your own drive, so to speak. Because just working year after year on the same thing kind of kills your spirit, it kills your soul, especially if you hate your job. So maybe you just try to develop it, or you change your job. And because as a self-employed person, you have to be more creative, you have to be more entrepreneurial, willing to take risks, be more decisive, because what you do directly affects your situation. As an employer, you have to ask permission for whatever little thing, basically, from your superiors, like that.
How to not become too proud of oneself. Once one is entrepreneurial, it becomes successful, and he thinks he's better than the others who just, sheep in the herd and stuff like that.
It's always better to compare oneself, not to others, but to oneself. That you try to be a better one today than when you were yesterday. Because you don't understand other people on that level anyway. So being puffed and...
But when people get money, I think many of them think that they are better since they get this money.
That's a trap, because that will make them fall down. Then they start thinking that I am the controller, I am the enjoyer. And that's actually in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, I think, called demoniac qualities. If you get more money and qualification, some people, even famous artists, they thank God. They say this is a gift from the Lord. And it says in chapter 15 that from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and also forgetfulness.
Some artists would just, praise God on public, and then they punish their employees very rudely.
That's hypocrisy. I'm talking about those I've seen who are genuinely grateful to the superior power for whatever skills they have been granted, like that. Hypocrisy is another very bad quality that will make somebody fall down. It's not rewarded to be puffed up in pride or be a hypocrite. This is what, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he calls that's kutinata and pratishta. That's one of the last snares of Maya that will pull you down again into material existence. So humility is very much encouraged, realizing that every good thing comes from God and every bad thing comes from God's agent, Maya.
How to stay humble if the surrounding tells you you're super good?
That's not easy, but you can make a thought experiment. Here we are sitting in a small village in Skåne, and Skåne is a small part of Sweden, which is part of Scandinavia, it's part of Europe, which is part of this Earth planet, which is part of the solar system, which is part of a galaxy, which is part of a galaxy cluster.
Basically nothing.
And basically, when it all boils down to it, how do you think a little ant is crawling on my arm, and it crawls between those big trees growing here? This is us. So what do we have to be proud about, really? If you know how to sing a little bit better than others, if you're a better technician than most others, so what? Be humble, do the best you can from that.
One more question maybe. What if your office life hinders your sadhana, when you don't have spiritual life?
Well, if there is a will, there is a way, they say.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is based on desire. And if you really have an honest, sincere desire of getting more time to focus on spiritual life, on japa meditation, the universe, God, will arrange that for you in due course. Meanwhile, if you cannot do japa properly, one can even, if you're commuting, going by train or bus or whatever, you can listen to Srila Prabhupada chanting in your headphones. And that will also constitute sadhana for you. And so there will be different opportunities if you have a desire. Our main difficulty is that we do not prioritize your sadhana, because we're still a little bit rascal and prioritizing the wrong things, the distractions. Like I have to make money for my family, so
movie in the evening.
And now I'm too tired for reading Bhagavatam. I just put on a movie.
Doom scroll. Doom scroll on the mobile.
Yeah, exactly. You look through the TikToks, and this is inevitable that this aspect is there, but one should be intelligent enough to see it for what it is. It's a distraction. It distracts you from being an eternal spirit soul servant of God. So one can break that pattern gradually. In my personal life, I used to follow some international news, and then I realized, why do I do that? I can't influence that in any way, shape, or form. And sometimes it gets me upset, oh, this Trump, or this Biden, or this Khomeini in Iran. So I do something else. Maybe I should just chant Hare Krishna or listen to bhajan. So gradually one can shift those habits, and it's very rewarding when you do that. That's the actual meaning of tapasya, of austerity, that you skip the distractions, which is affecting all of us. We forget who we are, spirit souls, and we get distracted to many other temporary, material, pretty useless engagements that we don't need. So we can piece by piece go in the right direction.
Okay, so you just plug in your earbuds and you just open some YouTube with Srila Prabhupada or some other lecturer.
You can do that,
you can do it even at your office.
If there's time, it shouldn't prevent you from doing your best at work, But there are always time, there are lunch hours. Maybe you take your food, your prasadam, which you maybe prepared at home and offered to your work. Then after 20 minutes you're done, and then you have another 40 minutes. You can relax, take a walk in the park, listen to some class, or
You just mentioned about lunch, and I think it's just one of the biggest downsides of office work, when you have to have some lunch in some weird place at work, which is not cooked properly, and that's such a drag. Usually.
It's explained that the consciousness, the mentality of the cook goes into the food. That's one thing. So even if you're a professional cook, he cooks for money. Maybe also you go to a restaurant where they also cook meat, so that the ingredients are being mixed, and they don't. So, and then anything is stated in Bhagavad Gita. if you eat food which are not offered to Krishna, you're actually eating sin, which is very heavy. So it's worth it. It's also a way of doing devotional service to just prepare some lunch bags for yourself, or if somebody in the family will do that, you offer it to Krishna, and then just bring it to work. Many people bring their own food. Nobody has to be disturbed that it's offered to God. It's my private business, so I can just eat the prasada. So you can arrange things.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, we covered the topic of work pretty good. Part of the work is to be nicely situated in your stage in life. If you're young, you try to be a nice student, learn, behave properly, do your homework, be nice to your parents. And if you're a mature adult, you do your best. If you're living alone, you take care of yourself and be nice to your neighbors and your employer or whatever, your customers. Or if you have a family with wife and children, you do your job, your work, try to help maintain them and protect them like that. And when you get to senior, you have your duties. So this is all about work.
That also is corresponding to this other thing I forgot to mention. It is the duty of the husband to leave home as soon as there is a grown son to take charge of his wife and family affairs. One should not remain continually implicated in household affairs up to the time of death. Is it actually possible for people in the old age to go from that to something else, like spirituality maybe? Or they should start as early as possible with spiritual advancements, with Vedic knowledge? What is the way to do it properly?
Yeah, if you ask Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto, the journey of spiritual activity going back to God, it should start from childhood, basically, and go on.
We skip that phase.
Yeah, go on throughout the whole life. But most of us, we encountered Krishna consciousness when we were already adult. And then what you were describing here is like the general procedure presented in the Vedas, but it's not possible for most people, really. So most people will not take sannyas, as we say, when we separate husband and wife as if the other one was dead. Few of them can do that. Most people, they stick together until death separates them. And if they do that, honorably, that's also part of their dharma. So to set a particular age, it may not be possible. It would come naturally. And, like you may have a big house and you have extra rooms for the children and all the relatives. And then as you grow old, maybe your economy shrinks and you look into a smaller apartment. You may still live with your wife and in lesser rooms and maybe not such a big car. You may have 7 seats when you have kids, but now it's just you and her. You have, 4 seats. So some adjustment will come automatically, but you cannot say that you can artificially force yourself to give up family life when you're 50. Some will give it up when they're 40. Others will never give them up, So it's depends on the circumstances. And it's nice if it could be consensual. If you make changes in your lifestyle, you do that in collaboration with your spouse, so that both are satisfied with the arrangement, and that and leaving the responsibility for the wife to the oldest son may be an ideal situation. But if you don't have any children, or if you don't only have daughters, or maybe it would work with the oldest daughter, I don't know. But nowadays, it's a direction, and if Providence help you, if you have a sincere desire, then things will evolve in that direction naturally.
Also the climate matters, I believe.
Yeah, the whole idea is not to be unnecessarily attached, that this situation we have, because if you were married, there was a time in your life you have never heard about your wife. And then she all of a sudden enters your life, then you get married, and then you get kids, and then at one point you will separate by death, if not everything else happens. So everything is temporary like this. But now we identify as, I'm husband, I'm wife, this is going to last forever. No, it won't.
climate also matters. So in the scriptures they say you should abandon all your activities, go to the forest. I guess here in Sweden, living in the forest is quite hard. You will not survive in the winter.
Well, you can move to the countryside in a small house, or
but is it
test.
good to go to the countryside?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe in India you can live in the forest all year around. You will have the rainy period, and even in the winter it's more cool and nice. In Sweden it would be impossible. You will freeze to death a day like today, for example. So
what's better, moving to the countryside or finding some group of people with whom you can associate living in the town, in the city?
I would say move to the countryside and find a group of people. No, but it's...
and have a good sun, yeah.
Yeah, the city always offers an abundance of distractions, but if you can maintain your equilibrium and peacefulness, and you have very close association with other devotees in the city, that's very nice, because you can create that peaceful atmosphere at home and also maybe in the temple or the center, like that. So it's not really the external location which is important, it's the internal location in your heart where you find the peace and the connection with God, with Krishna, which is important. And some things help to achieve that, and some things distract it or disturb it. So we have to avoid disturbances, and try to create that peace one some or another.